Hello everyone, I presume everybody has seen about this on social media or on our radio television show, and in fairness to RT, they actually did their job for once as a media company. Shocking, but again, not surprising, because we all know, even in the HSC nursing homes, that elderly people have been treated like animals, pretty much. Worse, they've been treated like they don't exist, they're not treated like humans. Um, and we see that, we know that, people know that in the HSC. We've seen during COVID take what's happened in the nursing homes here, what's happened. So this is a private company now that's from France. They should probably be sent back to France, the company, and they should be shut down, to be totally honest. And the people who are over it should probably be in prison, to be totally honest, because this is abuse. There's no other way to describe it, to be totally honest. And it should make everybody in this country very, very angry. Like, there's no other way to describe it. The people who... I'm not blaming the staff. The staff are not to blame. Like, the only Joe that's working there, I'm not blaming them. But the people who was, like, physically assaulting elderly people, handling roughly people in their 80s and their 90s, they probably should be facing some charges for, like, handling people very roughly, pushing them down on chairs, harsh things like that. But the only Joe who was just doing their job, I don't mind that. But the people at the top of this company should be probably going to prison for a good few years. And of course not allowed to operate in this country, should be sent back to France, and they should stay there when they're there in France. But this is the thing, and it's happening in the HSC, of course. It's happening in all nursing homes, unfortunately. But again, it's all the secrecy. And again, we have to ask the question too, where was the families? Is the families... Because again, the sad reality is, a lot of elderly people, when they get past their prime, the families just put them into the nursing home, and they don't go near them after that. And it's a sad thing to say, but we have to look at that as a country, what we can do to help families, instead of having them to put elderly people into nursing homes. We should look at a way of trying to help families being able to keep them at home, instead of being put into these nursing homes. Because again, it's a huge amount of money too. It's $1,000 or so a week in this nursing home. People are paying for the luxury to put their mother or father or grandfather or whoever into these nursing homes, and they're treated worse than animals. You wouldn't treat an animal like it. And to be totally honest, if you treat an animal like what was happening in footage like this, the animal would be taken off and you'd be in prison for it. And so widely so. You wouldn't do it to an animal. But I was brought up, since I was a child, the one thing that was always said to me, was drilled into me by my parents and by people around me, to respect your elders, respect your elderly people. People who are older than you, respect them. And it's always been a thing for me to respect elderly people, and to give them the time, and give them, listen to them and stuff like that. Because they've went through hard times and stuff. You're supposed to be respectful, they're elderly than you, and they have loads of wisdom and stuff. And that's what I was brought up as, to always respect elderly people. Unfortunately, nowadays that's all gone out the window. Years ago, we used to care about our elderly people, people who went through tough times, built this country. A lot of these people worked all their life. There's women probably in their 80s who in this nursing home, worked probably every day of their life, raised a family, raised many children. Take for example, a man or woman, there was a man there, I say he probably didn't even go to secondary school. He worked all his life, and he's pretty much left to rot in the nursing home and be mistreated by the staff. There's many other things I could say, but it is really, really shocking. And HIQA, and again, just one of the nursing homes they covered last night, HIQA said they shouldn't be admitting anybody after, I think it was April this year, and they're still doing it. So, but they should be shut down. This company shouldn't be let. The bit I seen on social media and the bit I've read about, it should never be let operate in this country again. That company should be gone. Should be not allowed to ever operate in this state. It should be disbanded straight away, because you couldn't trust them, because it's not just one incident. It'd be different if there was one incident. You could say, oh, the staff were doing it, but there's many incidents. And it just goes to show you, it's not about people. And again, the woman behind me said it many, many times, that everything should be about people. But in this nursing home, it's all about profit. And that's what it is. It's all profit. They couldn't care less about the individual, the person. They're thinking about the money. They only care about the money. There was, God forbid, there was elderly people, who struggle to go to the toilet, to have pads to help to go to the toilet if they would say cack it up to go to the toilet in time, etc., etc. They had no pads and stuff, that they used towels and awful stuff. Like, awful stuff to have, like, for elderly people in their 80s, late 80s, early 90s in some cases, to go through. Like, to be totally honest with you, the people over these two nursing homes should be sent to prison for the next 20 to 30 years for abuse, like the highest level of abuse, because it is abuse. Like, regardless of what way you look at it, if you watch any of the videos, it is abuse. Like, there's no other way to describe it. There is literally no other way to describe it. And some of the staff there should probably be going to prison along with them for some of the actions they did in pushing people into chairs, elderly people into chairs, and rough handling them and stuff. Because pretty much that's assault, if you may use that. Because in some of the incidents I've seen, some of the footage I've seen online, particularly with one woman holding an elderly man on a cane that can barely walk on the back, like holding him up by his trousers. And then the man saying to get off him, the word saying the woman to get off him, that's pretty much assault. Like, pretty much, you nearly can say that's assault, because it pretty much is in the eyes of the law. It really should be. Because if I went and done that to somebody in the street and stopped pushing them on, an elderly person in the street, you would be lifted, and so rightly so, because that is literally assault. The person didn't consent for you to touch them, and he certainly didn't, and especially a man, God knows, probably early 80s, on a walking aid that could barely walk, being forced to move on and stuff like that. Like, it's abuse. It is abuse. Like, regardless of what way you look at it, it's abuse. And I wouldn't mind. But 20 years ago, the same thing happened. So pretty much history's repeating itself again. Nothing has been learned. It's the same old, same old. But the same thing happened during COVID in the HC1 places. People were left to rot when COVID and stuff like that. They were left to rot in Northern homes, and so many people died, etc., etc. Like, this whole... And I would really say, all carers that... Well, either private or HSE, it should be the HSE that's over the majority of it anyway, the government. They should have body cameras. They should really have body cameras. I know we talked about in the live stream the other night that by putting cameras in everybody's room, but I do think but then again they could turn them off, of course, too. But, you know, we have to look at ways to try and stop this. And definitely, there's no laws in this country about adult safety, elderly people's adult safety in nursing homes. There's not really any laws to stop abuse of elderly people, because this is, regardless of what way you look at it, that's what it goes back to. It is abuse. Regardless, we could argue till the cows come home, but it is abuse. So we need to look at that, because the legislation is still pending in the House as they walk. This is 2017 or so when it was first kind of proposed, that's the word to use, in 2017. It was still here and nothing has changed. But this is evil. Put in the nicest way, it is evil. Evil carry on, and every Irish citizen, you know, should be up in arms about it, because eventually we're going to get old. I'm going to get old someday. You know, God forbid. You know, hopefully I'll be able to move about and do things. But again, we don't know. We don't know what can happen in the next 10 years. We don't know what can happen in 5 years. That some of us might have to go into these nursing homes at a young age, even some people too, because they get sick or whatever. And we have to think about them too, because again, these people, you know, maybe only have a few years left. Some of them in the early 90s and late 80s. They only have a few years left, and they've been treated like dirt. And, you know, they should be treated with a bit more respect for people who walked all their life, because again, none of them got it handed to them. There was no such thing years ago, people getting things handed to them. They had to work for it. Like, there's many other things, but you can really tell that I'm very flustered about it, because again, 20 years ago this happened before. There was video footage caught in the early 2000s, and there was a big huge uproar at the time, and pretty much nothing was ever done about it. And still, probably the sad thing is to say nothing's going to be done about it again. But there's many things to be said here. There's many more things we could say. Like, if you are looking up the footage or anything on social media, you know, please be aware that it is pretty distressing if you do look at that. Because it is pretty distressing to see people being treated like not even you wouldn't treat animals the way you treat. But anyway, we're not because I could rant on all day about it, but we should be all wet now. Like, we should be all giving out fuck. Excuse my language, but we should be all just literally giving out fuck 24/7 about this, because it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable this carry on happens, and unfortunately, it's probably happening in every nursing home. It's just these two we found out about. But in fairness, Torty, give credit where credit's due. They actually done something for what, Torty. Well done. Like, in all seriousness, well done. They actually did something. If they could do it more often, that'd be appreciated. But, you know, once in the blue moon, they'd actually do some journalism. But anyway, let me know what you think. I don't know what else to tell you, but there's nothing really more to tell you. But it's just evil. But hopefully, some kind of change come out of it, and that's the main thing. That something changes. But sadly, in this country, never anything ever changes. Thank you.